The next speaker is Professor Shashank Joshi.
Who?
Professor Shashank Joshi.
Shashank Joshi.
Yeah, ladies and
So,
gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
I must just say a word about Shashank. I think I know him for last many years now. He has been a past president of API. Wherever I go, whether it's a RP or JAPI or CSI or IMA or everywhere, Shashank is there. Why he is so popular? Only because he's working on cardio-diabetes. And he speaks very well. He has a very in-depth knowledge of the subject. And the topic which he's going to cover is edible oil. Does it really protect CVD? Because I heard yesterday Dr. Manchanda talking in a public conference day before yesterday on the role of edible oil. Let's see what Shashank has to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you a very powerful academician in a very small way, Shashank Joshi. Shashank.
Thank you, Dr. Chopra, for your kind words of introduction. I'm doing the same talk which I did last year, and I think I have the same chairpersons also. And we have some evidence base now. So we have now done 2 RCTs. So what I'm going to talk is ideal edible oil and CVD, and this is my conflict of interest. And we all have seen the INTERHEART study. We know that we exercise less, we have less of fruits and vegetables, our ApoB is too bad, we have a lot of diabetes, and we have a lot of heart disease. And we also done the ICMR INDIAP study, where we showed that a low HDL is the predominant factor. But dietary recommendations on fat are going through a global change. It is just not those and they need to probably revise them. But we are trying to go towards a trans fat free environment. But when you look at the NIN and the Indian Council of Medical Research, and the total fat calories to be between 15 to 30%, that's what their current status recommendation is. Sat fat below 10%, PUFA around 6 to 10%, and MUFA by difference. And what they have recommended for this simple question, which edible oil to use, from the National Institute of Nutrition, based on research done within India, and now we are showing you some RCTs, is to either combine or blend 2 or more vegetable oils to achieve the right balance of fatty acids. We all know that recently there has been a lot of controversy last year on fat. But fat is necessary for us. It's a major source of energy, and it is necessary for growth and development. It provides a taste to the foods and keep you full, but the 20 to 30% is where it should be. It's important not just for satiety or as an energy reserve, but what is fat all about? It's sat fat, it's the unsaturated fatty acid, which is MUFA, which is omega-9 oleic acid. It is the PUFA, which has a balance of linolenic acid, omega-6 and omega-3. And we all know that the unsaturated PUFAs are not manufactured in the body. We need them for leukotrienes, eicosanoids, and they are major parts of cell membrane and skin layers. So when you have to select what is the healthy oil as per NIN recommendations, low on sat fat, less than 10%, low and balanced on PUFA and MUFA by difference, and having the right omega-3 to omega-6 ratio between 5:1 and 10:1. And therefore the balance is most important. And when you look at edible oils, it always has 3 types of fatty acids: sat fat, MUFA and PUFA, composing more than 95%, but there is a non-glyceride component on it. And therefore it is necessary to get the right fatty acid fingerprint to blend 2 oils, and that is where the current research is moving into. So if you look at the different vegetable oils and their fatty acid monogram, you can see the 9, the 3, the 6, no oil, no single oil provides all these requirements. And I can debate with anyone on that not a single one will do that. But each oil will have some components which are non-glyceride components. Like for example, we know that vegetable oils have a lot of tocopherols and plant sterols, which lower cholesterol, have antioxidant effects. We know rice bran oil, which is popularly the Indian olive oil, has originol, which lowers cholesterol. And we also know the olive oil has hydroxytyrol, phenolic acids, which are antioxidants, the sesamine and sesmol, which are antioxidants and anti-inflammatory. So if you look at cardiometabolic standpoints, we all know sat fats are universally bad because they are detrimental to glucose, insulin resistance and sensitivity, triglycerides and LDL. But the traditional Indian ghee had that brownie point of HDL upping. And that's why people are still ghee centric, and we will have a lot of ghee baiters in this audience also. Then of course trans fat, it's universally red and it's bad and it should be eliminated from our diets, and we should move towards a zero trans fat environment. MUFA, we know, has a good metabolic impact and has a positive impact on triglycerides and LDL, but does not have any impact on HDL. And obviously, if you look at PUFA N6, PUFA N3, on the glucose metabolism, there is scant evidence base, and on the cardiovascular, lowering of LDL and triglycerides, there is good database. So obviously, when you need to balance fatty acids, no oil is fully saturated or unsaturated. All oils contain certain amount of fatty acids. As I said, NIN has basically been compliant to achieve intakes of individual fatty acids which are compliant and consistent with the FAO and WHO recommendations. So that visible, invisible fats are all in the right combinations, and that's what they should use. But we have a problem in India because we cook, and our cooking conditions are very different from the West and the Western hemisphere. Because Indian cooking uses oils from the beginning of the processes, which is different from a sorting. We have little bit of ginger, a garlic, a chili or an onion, and obviously when we heat it, okay, the temperature is around 120, 130. And frying, which is the most common practice in Indian cooking, and we do deep frying, it goes right above 150 degrees centigrades. So deep frying is a process of immersing food in hot oil. And this process of cooking and drying produces unique foods and flavors which make the crispy crustiness of the Indian foods. And obviously this is one of the most complex processes, and that generates a lot of hydroxyperoxides, conjugated dienes, polymers, dimers, glycerols, and primary and secondary end products of free radicals. And therefore, PUFA gets very rapidly deteriorated when you fry it. And therefore, when you look at fatty acid as a complementary therapy, you need the right omega-3, omega-6 ratio. We need the right balance of saturated fat, MUFA and PUFA. We do need a little bit of PUFA, and we need to have low sat fat and eliminate trans fat completely. But we need some amount of PUFA. A lot of people in the 70s thought PUFA is very low in cholesterol, lowers cholesterol, and therefore it is very good, but it has an adverse omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. But if you look at a typical daily requirement of a sedentary man, say 1900 kilocalories, calories coming from fat 30%, around 60 grams, then look at visible and invisible fat, grams of PUFA consumed will be 20 grams. And if you look at the deficit from invisible fat, if you take 25 grams, only 10 grams are consumed, you still will have 40% deficiency. And obviously, therefore, you need some amount of PUFA because of the PUFA deficit which we have if you look at a dietary intake. And therefore, current recommendation is you need to have an equivalent amount of MUFA and PUFA in our requirement. So Japanese were the first to innovate on this. They are the ones also the first to innovate on rice bran oil. And they actually combined, Sugano et al. Combined RBO with safflower oil then. And he did a trial where he blended rice bran oil with safflower to magnify the cholesterol lowering potential. And this synergistic blend lowered the cholesterol by 20 to 30%. Obviously we know that PUFA has an oxidative potential. It's not synthesized in the body. The oxidative potential of omega-3 is greater than omega-6, 3 times more. That is what has been very well documented. And therefore, if you look, the H atom next to the double bond is easier to remove. And therefore, if you look at the PUFA protection, we need to protect it from this ambient frying atmosphere, because PUFA is less bioavailable. And we know that the oxidative effects of frying I have just alluded to, whether it's hydrolysis, oxidation, thermal alterations, and therefore we need to prevent degradation and deterioration of oils during frying. So if you add an antioxidant, we know if you take pharmacological compounds of antioxidant like vitamin, they are useless in RCTs. But if you add it to an oil, an antioxidant, it improves shelf life and prevents the oil from deteriorating. If you add it during a cooking condition, it reduces the free radical damage as well as has some in vivo effects. And therefore, if you look at the pecking order, there is research to show that if you use a blend, the generation of free radicals can be minimized, and the degradation of oxidized molecules with short chain as well as long chain molecules can be minimized. And you can see that there could be an effective protection even at high temperatures. If you look at deterioration, and we studied that in a lab, and if you look at frying of the oils, which is what we do. Olive oil cannot be fried. We know that, and I'll show you data on olive oil. Okay, groundnut oil can be fried. Safflower oil can be fried. If you use a blend, also it can be fried, but you have to see the deterioration, and the least deterioration is seen with a blend. Also, when you take oil and foods cooked in that oil, if you have a technology which blocks the intake, okay, there are technologies like the Lozop technologies which can block the oil acid intake, and that's something which is very well known. And you can also show that antioxidants, whether you study GSH, catalase, SOD, they can be reduced, and you can see blending can make a difference. This was a RCT which we have published now in Indian Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism. It's available now on the PubMed, where we took a very small sample size as a RCT, where we took lifestyle with a blend, where patients were served in a metabolic kitchen food prepared from a test oil, and lifestyle changes with regular consumed oil. And we did their 24-hour dietary recall, and they were all given physical activity. Regularly consumed oils were used in the population, and study duration was 3 months, and we evaluated them for different markers, lipids and cardiac markers, including hsCRP, oxidized LDL, ApoB, homocysteine, and clearly we could show that the test oil or the blend oil after 90 days had a favorable lipid impact on LDL, total cholesterol, triglycerides, and also on cardiac biomarkers, including hsCRP, oxidized LDL, and homocysteine. And therefore, if you look at that, you can clearly show from that study that blending can be the way to go. This is the second clinical study which is now under publication. It is under scrutiny with a manuscript, and we should have it published in next couple of weeks, where we took 172 subjects recruited in 4 groups, 43 in each group, and we had of course lifestyle changes with a blend of RBO with safflower, 7:3 ratio, lifestyle changes with pomace olive oil, because that's another common olive oil which can be heated in Indian cooking conditions, then refined olive oil, because you also get refined olive oil, and extra virgin olive oil. And obviously those 3 formed the control group. And the duration of study was 105 days, and different varieties of olive oil was used. Again, similar parameters were used on LDL, and you can see here again the impact. Clearly you can see the lipid biology is more impacted with the lipid on the LDL cholesterol, total cholesterol, HDL, VLDL, and triglycerides. And you can see here again on the cardiac biomarkers, hsCRP included. You can see there's a lot of generation of free radicals with olive oil, because we know traditionally olive oil cannot be heated, and that's something which we need to know. So obviously, what is my conclusion? Which edible oil to use? But remember, you need to restrict the quantity of oil. It is less than half kg per person per month, and we cannot eliminate that. But quantity also matters. You need the right balance of saturated fats, MUFA and PUFA. It is not that we have to totally go saturated fat free, that's also wrong. It's not that we should completely go MUFA centric, that's also wrong, because we need some amount of MUFA, and therefore we need to manage a fatty acid composition through blending. Add a little bit of exogenous and endogenous antioxidants, provide a blend of oils, and it has to be integrated as a part, and I'm sure Dr. Gupta is going to come out with his lifestyle management program which he is trying to put in RCT way. You need to ensure that you blend the oil, antioxidants with lifestyle changes. Nothing can substitute lifestyle, including physical activities. So if you need to really bypass, because we are in a cardiac meeting which Dr. Chopra very elegantly has organized, we need to look at metabolic prevention. We need to, of course, never ensure that we need to de-stress, smile, eat less, eat on time, nothing artificial. Of course, we need to walk more, do yoga, listen to music, monitor our waist and weight, glucose and lipids. Polypill may not be the solution. Of course, but we are Indians. We cook and love fried food. We need to cook in less oil. And if you cook in that oil, use the right oil which is blended. Of course, we need to go back to nature. And this is my last slide, which I always say independent wherever I go, is the prevention mantra. Because I am an endocrinologist, and we are the number 2 population in the world with diabetes, very rapidly growing, and therefore we need to conquer cardiometabolic diseases through prevention. We need to eat less, we need to eat on time, we need to eat right, we need to walk more, we need to sleep well and sleep on time, because if you have short sleep, we have shown by research that you get type 2 diabetes, and of course we need to smile. I am happy that we are in a very, very spiritual environment here, and obviously we need to cook in the right oil, probably a blended oil. Thank you for a patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Shashank. I think it was a very outstanding presentation. I think we'll have a little 5-minute discussion. We have time because the next speaker could not come. He's in an emergency in Mumbai. So let's see what kind of interaction we have on the edible oil. I think Dr. Manchanda, you want to give any comment on this?
I think it was an excellent presentation, and one of the few people who have done randomized controlled trial in India. I just like to make 2 comments. I think the guidelines are going to change, because recently it's been shown saturated fats are not the culprit at all. And there was a number of papers in the European that I was there. So saturated fats, I think all this story that we have been saying for a long time does not hold true. There are several randomized trials. Secondly, cholesterol is also not a problem. There are a lot of studies, cholesterol containing foods. So I think it will, as you said, I agree with you that trans fat free situation we want. One comment about the oils I want to make is that we should not use so-called refined oils because refining process itself damages. They have to heat it at a very high degree and they produce antioxidants and then we reheat them. Reheating the oil produces lots of trans fats. That's why people who eat outside in the market say samosa is made that halwa is using it again and again and again. So oil should not be reused and preferably refined oil should not be used because refined is a spoiled one. One should use extra virgin or what is called cold compressed. Another oil which of course I like is mustard oil because it has the highest omega-3. All these combinations are lacking in ratio of N3, N6. I think the only oil which is available is either mustard or canola or maybe soya bean which has highest amount of omega-3. And there is an Indian study which I am sure you are aware, Indian Diet Heart Survey. People who used mustard oil in that study, which was a big study, 4 hospitals in Bangalore and 4 in All India Institute, done by a dietitian from Harvard Medical School. They showed a 71% less heart attacks, and they thought it could be because of mustard oil. Those people who use mustard oil instead of corn seed oil. I agree with you, blending of oils is also, but I think one thing they are missing is the omega-3. How much was the omega-3 in these? Or omega-3, N3 to N6 ratio?
I think it's,
So they have
very,
optimized
it's a very important issue, Shashank. Optimization of omega-3 to omega-6, which you mentioned in your slide, 1:5 or 1:10, which I was going through your slide very carefully. What is the method by which we really optimize the levels, number one? Number two, the superiority of blending of the oils, like a rice bran oil which you're mentioning, and about the safflower oil. In what way we show the potential so that we get a message out of it? And what is the right oil for the people to really reduce the prevalence of coronary artery disease, and is there any relationship established?
So we cannot get outcome data on this because we really need to do a large RCT for getting CV outcomes. So that's not possible. We can do small RCTs which we are trying to do through a metabolic kitchen or a cardiovascular kitchen in nutritional situations. Dr. Manchanda makes 2 points and I would like to rebut him on both the points. First is olive oil is not an Indian oil. And it's not really, it's not something which we need to recommend at all because it cannot be fried. When you fry it, and we have shown that recurrently, it really deteriorates very badly. So in the Indian frying conditions, I buy his point completely that the refined PUFA deterioration is very bad. And therefore that reheating point is completely valid, that we need not reheat oils at all. And that's something which is a common practice on street foods. And that's why street foods are really poisonous foods and they need to be banned completely. The second point about mustard oil, I have only 2 comments. The first point is that there is some epidemiological data now coming up from the state of Punjab, which you will see in cancer epidemiology, that the incidence of cancer of gallbladder is going up by people who consume mustard oil. And that's something which will come out. We have already 3 publications in that direction, and therefore I am a little worried about mustard oil. The biggest problem with mustard oil is adulteration of mustard oil. If you use unadulterated mustard oil, or if you use oil which is so-called canola, which is a patent of the Canadian government, which they have aggressively marketed very aggressively, just like the olive oil industry, and I feel both those industries are not meant for the Indian conditions, you still get adequate, from blending with RBO, you get adequate omega-3 balance of a ratio of 8:1. I don't really think we need to get the buy-in which probably a mustard oil will give us. The other challenge, which from east of India, there was some scan data to show that mustard oil might have some uric acid, and obviously canola is supposed to be uric free. That has also been propounded. It was hypothesized and has been done away with. So that I would not use it as a point against mustard oil. But I personally feel we should not be wedded to a single oil. Either you blend the oil, which is an easily available combination, cook in less oil, cook in the right oil for the right medium, don't heat your oil, and I think those messages are very clear cut. And I think the blending does allow you to get a ratio of 8:1 or 10:1, which is not bad. It also allows you a stability, because also remember, oil has to be stored in an Indian condition. It is not a cold environment. And we have extreme temperatures across India. And therefore that's another thing. Mustard oil, cancer, gallbladder has not been brought out by the whole mustard oil industry completely, including canola oil. In fact, there's data from Canada, from Calgary, clearly having a link between canola oil and CA gallbladder. So I would not like to cook in my kitchen oil which has a potential carcinogen or co-carcinogen potentiality. And therefore I'm a little worried from that standpoint. So I'm very clear about the mustard piece of it. I do agree, reheating piece needs to be totally taken away. And I think we still don't have solutions. We need to innovate into more and more. Indian government doesn't allow us to blend more than 2 oils. They have allowed maximum ratio of 80:20. We are pleading to the FSSI to have a blend of triple blend, so that that omega-3 richness which Dr. Manchanda is alluding to can be used. Therefore, then we can have the right balance. And I, of course, completely buy his theory. Sat-fat bogey is out. It was all done with scant evidence.
Yeah.
And that I'm sure we have people from United States who would like to make a comment on that. But I completely buy that point. And so is that cholesterol bogey.
Yeah.
Okay, both
sir.
these bogeys are out. And we are here in a preventive cardiology conferences.
I remember,
Industry may
I
not be
think
very happy with our
I
suggestion.
would just like to mention what Shashank is saying. I was attending a WHO meeting for 2 days in Delhi, and I was invited to represent CSI. And there was a 1-hour session on oil. And I don't know how many times I bombarded telephone calls with Shashank. And so many times. And he was very kind to give me all the data, world data. And ultimate decision was the blending of oil is superior. Then I went and talked to the DG of food safety in India, Mr. Dave. I don't know whether you know him. I called him also in my office. And then he referred to me one guy from Hyderabad, from nutritional department. He also came, and then we gave a message very meticulously in a very subtle manner with the knowledge whatever I could get from Shashank and from Dave and from a guy from Hyderabad, that the blending of oil till date has been found to be superior. What I was thinking up till now was double blending. What Shashank is mentioning, even triple blending may be good. So I think food safety department in today's date approves blending of oil. These are not my statement for the head of the food safety government of India. And I think they have a data. They won't give a license to somebody like that. So I think this data, whatever information I had, I'm not an expert, but I'm expert in collecting the data. The way I'm expert in collecting data from Shashank. And I invited him. He refused to come to Delhi because he was occupied in other programs. But I think the consensus today is that we should use that oil which has been proved 100% safe to the best of our knowledge. There is no doubt what Dr. Manchanda is mentioning about the mustard oil, but there are some papers which I think was quoted by Dr. Shashank. In cancer gallbladder, if you treat one disease and produce another disease, I think we have to be very judicious. Vijay, you want to say something?
A brilliant presentation, Dr. Joshi. I want to ask, the flaxseed oil is the one which is protective to the heart. So how about the blending of flaxseed and the sunflower and sesame oil, what we call earled? These three are, what is your comment? And what about the coconut oils? There are for and against comments, so I would like to know from you. And in the lighter vein, I would like to say that probably you practice what you preach. By looking at you, that appears like that.
So I think I'll take the lighter vein first. I think they elected me Obesity Society president based on my BMI. And having said that, I am also a very big proponent of yoga. I was talking to Dr. Gupta that I am a yoga teacher myself and I still do regular yoga and practice yoga. Yoga as you call it. We should not even use the word A silent in that yoga. I think the points which you make are very relevant. We have actually recommended to the Indian government to allow us permission for triple blending, and the third addition is actually flaxseed into an RBO plus brand. Okay, we're also looking at soya bean blend. In fact, there is a soya bean blend available in the market already. Okay, and a sesame blend also available in the market. So I think these blends will come in, and we are trying to add a triple blend to it. Okay, currently also there is an olive and a flax blend available, not freely available, and therefore we don't have.
I think just a last question, Shashank. Anita Khalil, a last comment or a question. Yes.
Yes, I find it very, very confusing and to a certain extent alarming also. You know, I have been brought up on mustard oil because I happen to be a Bengali. But the electrophysiologists of the country and the pacemaker companies, they are very much against it. They say erucic oil causes, and the maximum pacemaker implanted are from Bengal and Kashmir. So there is a point you have to think about. There is something in it. I don't think it can be disregarded.
So I think the message is very clear. No more controversy, and we will not extend it further. That there is no doubt that mustard oil controversy is still there. That it produced degenerative changes in the sixth sinus, and a cardiologist is looking at me from USA that there is a true data from Cochin. A lot of people, pacemaker requirement is increased because of mustard oil use. And number two, they also mentioned mustard oil is a carcinogenic. So I think there is some controversy. We need to have more validation and more data in favor. Till that, I think we all consider that the blending of oil is superior, and I think he made a very strong point, Shashank. We need more data, and he believes that double blending is beneficial, but triple blending may be more beneficial by adding soybean. Let's give a big hand to Shashank.
Thank you.
with
Thank
this
you very
very
much, Professor Joshi.
We
Ladies
should,
and gentlemen,
we should not forget that mustard oil, Argemon mexicana, very epidemics.
So, I think
thank you.
That controversy is over. For last 15 years, there is no
We'll-
confusion in that. There is no toxicity. I must
Thank you.
clear it. It was intentional mixing by somebody else. CBI has investigated it, and this was an intentional poisoning by somebody.